Hello and welcome to the 14th day of a 21-day spiritual reset. Let's cut to the chase today and grab the bull by the horn. What am I talking about? Fear, of course. During this pandemic, we have experienced a whole host of negative emotions, anxiety, depression, anger, but fear has been the predominant one. So let us understand fear. What is fear? In the spiritual context, fear is the lack of faith. And what is faith? Faith is the knowingness that whatever happens is what is meant to be. It is there is no coincidence in nature, and not only it is meant to be, it is for the best. It is meant for our spiritual growth. What happens when we don't have faith? When we don't have faith, we move into a control mode. We try to either try to resist being controlled by a person or a situation outside us, or we try to control a person or situation outside of us. In both these cases, we project our power outside, and we know that we have no power to do anything to control the external environment. We do, however, have tremendous power within ourselves, and by controlling our own thought process, we can influence our external world. So let us now try to understand fear a little bit more. Now, fear is a primary survival response. It was very useful, still is, in our caveman days, Paleolithic times, because it prevented us from becoming extinct, from being killed or eaten by predators. But what happens is when we experience fear, we trigger our adrenal glands that releases adrenaline and triggers also the flight or fight response. But the problem with that is we are not equipped or wired to think very well when we are experiencing fear, because when the adrenal gland gets triggered, the blood and oxygen rushes from all over the rest of the body, especially from the brain, towards the large muscles of the legs to help us run faster than our enemy. So, one we have to understand is in a crisis situation, we do not rise to the occasion, we fall or sink to our level of training. So, now we will elaborate on that a little bit later, but let's understand fear better when we understand that we have three levels of existence. We have a survive, a thrive, and a transcend level of existence. Transcend, of course, is the ideal mode of living from a spirituality perspective, because it helps us to transcend our limited and negative thought patterns and live at our highest potential. But most of us go back and forth between survival and thrive, and which is fine. But we have to understand which mode we are in and to switch to the other mode depending on our need of the hour of the need. When we are in a survival mode, we are preparing for the worst case scenario, because the worst case scenario ensures that we survive, because from our memory we know what has endangered us and we prepare for it. But to live in the thrive mode, we have to go to the best case scenario. And the problem of living in the survival mode for too long in the worst case scenarios, we also trigger another law of the universe, which is, we discussed this before, what we think we become, what we feel we attract, and what we visualize we create. When we are constantly thinking fearful thoughts, feeling fear, and visualizing the worst that can happen to us, we get stuck in the survival mode. So how do we go to the thrive mode? How to think of the best case scenario. You have to understand fear a little bit more deeply, break it down to its three constituent types. So the three primary fears are fear of not having enough, fear of not doing enough, and fear of not being enough. Now you have to create a placeholder for fear by asking yourself two questions. The first question is, what it is that I'm most afraid of? What is my worst fear? fear of not having enough, fear of not doing enough, or fear of not having enough. It is important to actually write these things down, not just think through it. Because when you write it down, you create a placeholder and you send a command, instruction to your subconscious to dedicate a percentage of its ability to deal with the fear. Once you figure out what it is and you make a list of what you can do, what steps you can take to alleviate your fear, your subconscious will work on autopilot to make that happen. And when you release this pervasive sense of fear, then you release a huge, enormous energy to actually visualize the best case scenario. Because understand that your subconscious does not know the difference between your actual experiences and your imagined experiences. It only manifests, your subconscious only manifests your dominant thinking. So when you dedicate a large part of your thinking to the best case scenario and you start visualizing it, you're going to start manifesting that. Now, I don't want to talk about meditation, although we have mentioned it in the past, because many people are not ready for it and they think it doesn't work for them, they're not ready for it, they don't know how to do it. So let's just say that make some time for visualization. Everybody can visualize. We have all know how it is to daydream. So set aside some time and then some quiet time, 5, 10, 15 minutes at best, and then close your eyes and visualize this bubble, yourself being protected or covered by this divine, beautiful divine energy. And when you start feeling completely protected, then you start growing that energy, that bubble of light, divine light, as if in increasing ripples. Radiate that divine protective light to cover first yourself, then your immediate family members, your friends and relatives, your community, your state, your country, and your world. And spend a few minutes and know that this light is going to protect everything it touches. When you do that, you are actually cultivating faith. And remember, we talked about earlier that we do not arise to the occasion, we sink to our level of training. And when we train ourselves to inculcate faith, we are actually going from survival mode to the thrive mode. And this is what happens, in the past when people have experienced miracles and healing. What happens is all the prayers and the chantings and going to visiting holy places, all they're doing is they are actually raising their vibration from low vibrations of fear to higher vibrations of love, faith, and healing. So when you do this visualization exercise on a daily basis, maybe more than once a day, depending on your level of fear, what you're doing is you're actually raising your vibration. And wherever you're vibrating from, that's what you're going to attract into your life. And you should not be worried, because you have dedicated a part of your subconscious mind to take care of your survival. You have made a list, and based on the information available to you, you have figured out steps that can alleviate those fears, and then you have released a lot of energy to take care of, to help you visualize the best case scenario, so that you catapult yourself out of the survival mode into the thrive mode. And that's all there is to it. Spend time cultivating faith and raising your vibration. It will not only help you now, but it will also help you in future cases where crisis, where you will sink to your level of faith. And that is all there is to today's talk. Stay safe, be positive, and until we meet again, thank you.